Good morning, part 9 of my court case against Watchtower. Now, I had claimed that Watchtower had obtained some of the judgments by fraud, and the proper way to deal with that is to start new proceedings and to outline exactly what the fraud is. So I did that, but I had taken quite a few cases in the court, and the president of the High Court wanted to know the bare bones of the case to see would I be allowed to continue. So I had claimed that Watchtower had hidden important facts from the courts, and that if I had known these earlier, I could have taken a case in 2009 or even much earlier, and I wouldn't have been deceived into closing a legal case in 2009. Of course, there were many false facts. Now, the president wasn't inclined to believe me because he's faced with a barrister on one side and a layperson on the other. Now, the barrister at this time was a different one. This was because the barrister at this time was not allowed to be affiliated with his clients. So it was a different barrister. Anyway, still, the president had this barrister who is an officer of the court, and he wasn't inclined to believe me. So I struggled to start with. And the president said to me, these are just part of the ups and downs of life. Things happen in this, that, and the other. So I said, look, I cannot sit back and rest knowing what Watchtower is doing to people. They set themselves up as judges. They abuse their authority. They make false accusations by breaching human rights. They cause incredible harm, and it can lead to suicide. So I can't sit back and let that happen. And then I read him a section of this letter. That's a letter to Bodies of Elders, 1989. And this is the little bit I read, where elders are told to avoid entanglement with the secular authorities who may be investigating the same matter, strict confidentiality, even of the fact that there is a committee, must be maintained. And I told the president that this was a hit and run tactic, that they cause incredible harm. And if it's harm to the point where the police might be involved, Watchtower would keep quiet about their involvement. Well, from that point on, the tide of the case turned. But I was so incredibly ill at this point that I asked the president that if he could repeat what he had said before, that Watchtower's activities were unlawful, and if he could repeat what another judge had said, that was Miss Justice Irvin. And she had said that on the basis of Article 37, and I'll explain that in another video, that the defendants should be using fair procedures. Now, the defendants objected to this, and they said, oh no, Miss Justice Irvin didn't say that. And the president said, it doesn't matter whether she said it or not, because he could say it. He said, in these circumstances, you must use fair procedures. It's the law. So he said to the barrister, look, go and take instructions from your clients to see would they accept the end of this matter if I state those things, that you should be using fair procedures. So off went the barrister and his solicitor, and they came back in half an hour and said, look, they'd phoned London, London had phoned New York, and they were waiting for an answer. Well, the president found this somewhat amusing, that this little old lady from an obscure town on the edge of Europe could have influenced this huge organization to the fact that they were phoning London and New York. So we waited another hour for this reply to come back. And when it did come back, the barrister said, well, we're nearly in agreement, but we don't like the wording. So you could see the president, and I said to the president, look, they want the freedom to use unfair procedures. They might be allowed to do this in the States, but they cannot do it here in Ireland. And the president agreed. Now, the problem was that I had to swear that I wouldn't take any more cases against Watchtower if the president did as I asked. So I was willing to do that. So I swore that I wouldn't take any more cases. But the barrister was allowed to ask me a question. And he said, oh, would you stop writing us letters? And I said, no. I said, if you carry on doing any more unfair and unlawful things, I retain the right to write a letter to you. And the president accepted that, and I got the order. So I'll come back and give you more details in the next video. Thank you so much for watching and for your nice comments.